and I wish all the best of luck to some entrepreneur who would be listening and watching us. But sometimes it's not that quick. Sometimes you go into one direction, you realize that you have to change a few things, and you go into another direction. So it takes you a while.
Only real content is gonna last. All that other nonsense is here today and gone tomorrow.
Welcome, everybody, back to another episode of Navigating Now, a different podcast. I am your humble host, Des Cole, joined as always by my co-host, Jay Bartlett. And today we're very excited to have a veteran in the luxury product space who went from developing products and brands at LVMH to founding his own successful fragrance atelier in Paris, and also our partner in creating our brand new fragrance, Opulence by Dyfrent. It is our pleasure to welcome Emmanuel Frossard to the podcast. Emmanuel, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be sharing some things about this experience that I have.
Yeah, of course, of course. I mean, so as usual, I mean, we'll hop right into it and kind of get right into your background before we get into the fragrance and Candora and everything. I'd like to ask you just a little bit about your background. So could you share with the people where you're from, where you grew up, and what it was like for you and experiences you had as a kid?
Well, I was born in Paris, the parts of the city are numbered. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I was born in the 8th arrondissement, which is a very posh and chic arrondissement. And it has a specificity because nowadays you don't have people getting born there anymore, because the clinic that I was born in is now ahead of a fashion brand. So you don't have any clinic anymore in that part of Paris. So I'm part of the last ones born on this 8th arrondissement. Then I had the luck to live in the very center of Paris, in the Ile Saint-Louis. This is where the family apartment is. So it's so special because you are at walking distance from everything. And it was at that time, I'm talking about the 70s, it was a small village, a place where you would know a lot of the people surrounding you. There were a few families with whom we had very close links. And it was really a very nice way of spending my childhood. Then I was going to school just close to that. And it's funny because this is now my area where I have the shop and the private room. So I came back to my original area of Paris, which of course is my favorite. This is so special because it's a place which is very antique, which is very old. This is the beginning of Paris, in fact. The Ile Saint-Louis, nevertheless, has one other very fun characteristic. It was all built in the 17th century. Before, there was no bridge. So you could not come easily to the island. So it's only when they started building a first bridge that they said, "Ooh, this is a perfect place, a very nice area." And they started building houses. So it was all built in the same century. That's why it's quite unique and quite, well, there's a lot of similar settings for the buildings.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, I can't even. So, like living in Paris in the 70s, like growing up, like what were like the main things that were like happening? Obviously, it's Europe, so you had professional football and
football was something definitely. It was also well, a lot of going out, a lot of meeting friends very easily in that area again. And you know, when you're there, you cross the bridge, you have Notre Dame in front of you. and you live with that every day. It's really then becoming part of your environment, part of your life, and it's so nice. I also in my childhood I was acting. Maybe it's not a surprise for you because in fact during my workshops I'm also acting a lot. But
I could totally see that.
At one point, I even had to make a decision between going professionally into acting or starting in marketing. And it's just because I had an interview with a theater director who told me, well, you'll see, it's such a marvelous career. It's so fun. It's so exciting that it doesn't matter if you live in just a small room for the rest of your life. And then I said, oh, well, I thought of an apartment maybe, or,
Right.
but really, I think also that being in these places had inspired me a lot for everything I did. And then, well, the other inspiration I had is that I'm the number 8 of a family. I'm the 8th child. So when you are at this position, you have a lot of examples from your brothers and sisters in terms of career and what you want to do and so on. And I'm the 3rd one graduating from the top French business school. And I realized quite quickly that this was something I wanted to do business, to start projects, to make them happen, and to have also a lot of possibilities. And I think that business gives you that. You can do things which are fun. You try to seduce your public. You try to seduce your clients. It's the same, in fact. So I went to HEC, which is a nice business school. It was copied somehow on the American business schools, and it has a campus, for example. This is one of the very few business schools in France which has one. So you have this sort of life. It's in the suburbs in south of Paris, near Versailles. And you have that life on site, which is also very different because you meet a lot of people. Well, of course, you know that during your studies, you can meet people with whom you're going to do business because this was your case too.
Exactly.
But it's also a place where you meet a lot of friends. And this is what happened to me. I met plenty of friends who are still my friends today. And you see a lot of people with projects like this, with ideas, with ideas to change a little bit the business and the way we do things. So it's quite exciting. And the other fun part is that my wife graduated from the same business school. This is quite classic, but we did not meet on the campus.
Oh, that's cool.
We met in Bangkok, Thailand, which is another fun element of our couple. In fact, we both went to Thailand myself for a couple of years and my wife for a year after we graduated.
Super cool. Okay, so I want to unpack a lot of that because you just told us a lot of information. I want to go all the way back to the beginning because we'll get around to all of this. To one, I was also a young thespian all the way through like my childhood. I was a young thespian, so that's really cool. Thespian turned marketer, so I see you there. But also you being the 8th child in your family. That is that's very interesting. Not everybody has that sort of experience, so I'm curious, just like what were the lessons that you took away? Obviously, seeing one, were you the last child, and also and then also what were like the main things that you learn from that experience?
Well, the thing, yeah, I'm the last one, and it means that I had plenty of mothers and plenty of fathers, uh, plenty of people taking care of me, and plenty of examples, plenty of people who could show me things, and who would want to take me to a holiday, who I would see building a family. And starting their life, in fact, when I was a teenager. So that was really interesting. And because they had all been into very good studies, it was also quite a challenge, because when you're the number 8 in a family like that, you say, oh, what could I, maybe theater? And they tell you, sure, yes, go for it. But first you graduate from a business school.
Right.
So you have a lot of a lot of challenge. This is how I saw it. But also, you know, when I was a bit more old, they were starting to have kids. Then I became a super uncle. And that was fun too, because I was surrounded by children, and I was not so much older than them. So there was a very interesting relationship during that time. And it was, yes, living in a sort of a clan with people you know very well and you respect. And you know, I started my company with my sister. So it shows you also that
that was going to be my next question, was like, how close are you guys, and like, do you guys actually like do business together, if you and collaborate and stuff like that? And also, if you don't mind me asking, what did your parents do?
Yes, well, my mother studied. She studied, and she met my father also during her studies. She studied political science. And at that time, you know, it was in the 40s. It was not so common for girls to study. But then she never really worked with all those children. She had a lot of work to do then. She likes to say, when you ask her this question, she likes to say, well, but I was clever enough to invest into a large apartment in the Ile Saint-Louis, which is now worth a fortune. So the money I did not make by working, I made it through this investment. And this is quite true. Then my father was in business. He was in sales first for colorants, and then he was in human resources for a large French company in aluminum, and quite industrial, in fact. And he passed away some 10 years ago, while my mother is still alive at 96.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, rest in peace to your father, and Godspeed to your mother. But no, that's like super cool. It's just I just wanted to highlight that, because I know it's not a super common experience. But really cool. So we can move on from there really to obviously you said that you were thespian. You had to eventually make a decision to go to business. You ended up going to business school. And then eventually you met how long was it after school that you met your wife?
It was, well, right after school, I went in Thailand for LOREAL. I was sent there. It was a time when you could do the equivalent of a military service working for a French company abroad. So that was a special contract of 2 years, which I did for L'Oreal in Thailand. And that was just so exciting, because it was Asia in the 90s. So it was very far. It was quite exotic. And it was so interesting, because we started the subsidiary of L'Oreal in Thailand at that time, in 94 and 93 maybe. And of course, when you're 25 years old, you're arriving there for your first job, and you are the assistant to the general manager. It's just crazy.
Right.
And you're so far from the head office, who knows very little about the country itself, that when you're on site, you have so much power. You really have to build the company. And I think this, despite the fact that I was working for a multinational like L'Oreal, gave me the envy to be an entrepreneur, because we really started so many things from scratch over there. And one of the special elements that I like to talk about when I'm relating about this experience is, first I learned to speak a little bit of Thai. It's a very, very complicated language, because you have those tones, you know.
The tones, right? I was going to say.
And you have a special alphabet, so it's not easy. But I felt when you live 2 years in a place, you need to learn that. You need to be closer to the people, and also when you're in marketing, you need to understand people. And if you don't do that step, you're really far from them. And then I realized that the people who had been before me had accepted a phonetic transcription of the brand L'Oreal that was in fact the American way to pronounce L'Oreal, saying L'Oreal, when in French it's L'Oréal with an A at the end.
Right.
But the letter that was chosen in Thai language was an O instead of an A. And this is the kind of thing that you realize only if you learn the language. And the people before me had not done that. So when they were saying, okay, what did you write there? They were saying, oh, it's L'Oreal. Oh, okay, perfect, L'Oreal. But what we wanted, what we would have liked probably was L'Oréal, not L'Oreal.
Right.
So you see, it's a perfect example of how much you should learn about your clients, how much you should listen to people and pay attention. The other question was, you know, when we take an advertising coming from France with a very good-looking girl with very nice blonde hair, what would a Thai think about this? Would they say, oh, it's so nice and so French? Or would they say, oh, that girl, she does not have the same kind of hair as I do? So you're really coming to basics of marketing, not I think for you, but I'm going to ask you what you think. Right. And that was really a good beginning. And my wife was doing some work for an NGO helping prostitutes in Thailand. And yeah, this is so we met in Bangkok when we could have met on our campus at HEC.
Very, very interesting. So you were basically just kind of out there, what, probably 24, 25 in Thailand, working for L'Oreal, met your wife, and then so you worked there for, you said 2 years, and then what did you end up?
Then, well, the policy at L'Oreal at that time was if you're good at the end of that contract, you're back at the head office because we want to see you in the head office. So this is what I did. I was brand manager for the shampoo brand of L'Oreal. And that was super exciting. L'Oreal is an incredible company. It gives you a lot of responsibility right from the beginning. That's so unique. And those responsibilities then are shared by your hierarchy. And you, as a young brand manager, you get to meet a lot of people, including in very impressive meetings. So as a group product manager, I was in meetings with the CEO, the worldwide CEO of L'Oreal. So of course, again, this is driving you to a mode of conviction, which is then something that you get for your whole life. You need to convince people. You don't need only good figures, but you need to seduce them in a meeting like that. Right. And that was yeah, quite exciting. It was some the incredible thing at L'Oreal is how much they know the consumer and how much they love the product also. That's something I took from those years. It's to be close to R&D, for example, because they are the ones who are really making the research, making the formulas and so on. And if you are spending a lot of time with them, you know much more about your product. And I think it's also, you see the same for you in fashion. When you have the love of the fabric, the love of the design, when you're meeting the designers, it has to be so much shared between the people who drive the company and the people who design it, who design the clothes, that it's the same in, I think, in all especially luxury, because then you really have also not only a love for the product, but for the raw materials that you're using. See, it's and for the people who are involved in making the product. So that was some super cool years at L'Oreal. Very interesting. But I had the last of going back abroad. And at that time, they were saying, no, but you're doing a spectacular career. You're now a group product manager. So take your time. It will come. It will come. But you know how you are when you were at 27, 28. You just say now. So then I left and I started working for Johnson & Johnson on a very exciting project also, which was the launch of a skincare brand with the EVION water. So that was, yeah, quite exciting years again at Johnson & Johnson in the cosmetic part of Johnson & Johnson, not at all the medical part. And then I joined LVMH in the champagne business. I was working for Veuve Clicquot. So a complete change, going from consumer goods to luxury. And I think that at that moment at Veuve Clicquot, they wanted to get some input of the sort of consumer good attitude. You know, this new product development attitude, this fact that you both cherish the product, but you want to rock a little bit the old lady. You want to rock Madame Clicquot. So right. This was my mission, in fact, to teach Madame Clicquot how to rock.
Yeah, so no, that's an like you. I want to get more into everything that you did at LVMH, but I wanted to kind of make a side comment on, like, you touched on going and making the transition from products just in general and cosmetics to luxury in particular, and doing this with French companies. And one of the kind of biggest things that I got from Paris when we were there was opulence. And kind of like in New York, there's tons of wealth and everything is big. But like in Paris, and maybe in more so in Europe, just the mindset of what people do with their wealth is different. It's like they don't build things as big, but like the ceilings are gold. And so I wanted to get your perspective on just kind of how people in Paris and in France think about like wealth, luxury, opulence, and kind of just the bourgeois class nowadays?
That's a very interesting question. The difference between the perception of luxury in France and in the US. I think what you like in the US, because it's a country that was totally built. What you like is to show your success through very often some expensive stuff. So you need cars that people will think, oh, immediately this is worth $500,000. And you make buildings also which are just incredible and so nice. And I think in Europe, we had that a lot in the past, because when you see Versailles Castle, it was exactly the same. Louis XIV was just a perfect example of saying, I want gold here, here, and here, so that when the other kings would come and visit me, they would be impressed. I think now it has changed a little bit, you still have some of that, but there is a lot also on how we live, and we spend money on our walk of life rather just on things. And from many of my friends who have succeeded, I see some who prefer to travel, to have nice paintings, and not investing that much on their car, for example. That's I think also a new trend. The car, which used to be the place where you put money because it means freedom also, freedom and show off. Now it's not as important anymore. What else? What other things? No, I think yes. We're ready to spend money, for example, on very good food also.
That's what I was just gonna say. Right.
Because it's also a shared moment that you're having with friends or with your family. So you see that idea that luxury is also in time that you spend with your close ones. It's quite important in France, I think.
So what I'm taking from this is, like, in America, we quantify success just with the physical. And in Europe and in Paris, you quantify your success and wealth much more with lifestyle.
It's a bit of a caricature, so but yeah, I think it's somehow true.
Yeah, I think one of the craziest things to me while we were in Paris, just on a quick side note, was that the cafes were open at like 2, 3 in the morning after you go out to the bar, and you're walking back home and there's 50 people in an outside packed cafe, all eating, drinking, laughing like it's 7 p.m. And that was that was very interesting that people just, that's how they spent their time, was like, we'll stay up till 2, 3 p.m. but we're just chatting and just with my friends.
We're just enjoying.
Exactly.
Yeah, and this is so true of the new generations also. My generation, the beginning of your career, you would be working until 10 at night. Nowadays, no, no way. They're at the cafe.
Right.
Yeah, it's different, and I think they're right.
Interesting.
I want to take it back to your incredible career. So I want to ask kind of more specifically, what was your role at LVMH? What was your favorite project? And why do you think LV is won for so long and continues to do so? Like, what do you think of the corporate structure?
Okay, so my role, I was the marketing director for Veuve Clicquot. And then I was the brand director for Chandon sparkling wine. You know, that wine that is from California, of course, in Yountville, but also in Argentina, Brazil, Australia. And since I left, it is now in China and India. So I had amazing years at that during those jobs. One project is related to New York, in fact. We made an incredible fiesta, an incredible party in New York, just to show what Veuve Clicquot is, what Veuve Clicquot stands for. You know, when you're in Champagne, you don't make that much advertising. So what you do is to make parties or moments. Again, it's time rather than things that you own. And it's the idea was really to make a moment that people would remember for 10 years. So we made this 3 days trip for people from around the world, from journalists to VIP clients. And we invited them in New York, trying to show them a different aspect of the city. Because of course it was a population that they all had been to New York. But we said, okay, you'll have a different vision. So you'll have to choose what you want. Would you like to meet some New Yorkers? Okay, you're going to meet someone who is making some of those spectacular flower bouquet in the halls of the main buildings. And not only you will meet that person, but you will have 3 hours doing yourself one of those bouquets. Then you would meet a novelist, maybe. There are so many novelists in New York. So we got to meet with Jay McInerney and to discuss with him about his novels, about being a New Yorker. And then you could choose also to meet someone in dance, for example. My friend Christopher Keynes, who is a choreographer. So you would attend one of his rehearsals in New York and discuss with the ballet dancers and so on. So that was really, again, spending time, not only seeing buildings, but spending time with people from New York. And then we had a huge party at one of the top floors of the building that was just rebuilt on ground zero. It was still under construction, so we had something that was in a half-built environment, which is so much like Clicquot, in fact, because putting luxury in somewhere you're not expecting it is really the twist of Clicquot.
So you guys do a party on the roof of a half-built World Trade Center? I guess that'll make you remember for a decade.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good favorite project.
That's really cool.
I really think that you two would have enjoyed the party.
Of course, of course. That's super cool.
Yeah.
So, in addition to that, like, how do you think that LV, like as a company, could be better from getting a chance to see everything behind the scenes? Like, what was your experience?
LVMH is a fascinating conglomerate of incredible brands. And that's the strength of this company that was totally built by Bernard Arnault. Which is fascinating because some of those brands, some of them are a few centuries old. Some of them are more recent. But in all of them, what you spend time building is the dream. Because again, when you're buying a bottle of Veuve Clicquot, yes, partly you're buying the wine, mostly you're buying the bubbles in the wine, but you're also buying the dream about it. Otherwise, I'll give you a tip. There are some much better wines to buy at the same price. What you need to get from Veuve Clicquot is more this craziness. It's part of the history and part of the fun, the excitement that you have from that bottle. This is what you learn, and this, in working on luxury goods at LVMH, is that there's something beyond the product. The product has to be pampered. It has to be something that you do not only buy for you, but for next generations, because you pass it. It's such a marvelous object that it would be for next generations. But then champagne is yet another category. And that was so interesting to meet with my colleagues in marketing from the other brands, because, for example, when you buy a luxury watch, it's something, yes, that you're buying a few €100,000 in a watch, but it's something that is going to last for 3 generations probably. And if one day you're in need, you can sell your watch. Try to sell an empty bottle of champagne. It's not the same. So champagne is really, again, about the moment, about sharing. You don't really open a bottle of champagne for yourself. You need a very good reason for that. But otherwise, it's the excitement of sharing. And it's something that, yes, it's less expensive to put money on the table to buy the bottle of champagne, but it's going to last for, at best, 40 minutes. So it's a different way of thinking about luxury, in fact.
Yeah. And what advice would you give for anyone who wanted to take that route and work for LVMH?
You need passion. You need passion. You need passion for the product. You need passion for the people. Meet the people. They will tell you so many things about their market, about the way they make the products. And then you know that sentence from Kennedy, which is ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. I think it's the same with the company. You should really think, okay, what can be my added value to the company? And that's something, yes, special. Nowadays, some of the younger generations, they come and say, okay, how many days of holidays do you have? What's the compensation? What's the, where is the rest area? What do I have access to? Okay, that's important. That's going to be part of your life. But for me, when you are interviewed for a company, you should axe also your speech on what is it that I can bring that is so special. And what I brought was that attitude of new product development and the attitude of saying, okay, we are going to do things quickly. We are going to change the image of champagne, which can be a little bit too Frenchy, traditional, old stuff. So that was what I was able to bring. And if you want to go into some of those companies, it's always the question, what is it that you can bring to that company?
No, I love that. That's a fact. It's always about the value added. And a lot of people don't think about that. That's a great mindset. So, but I want to continue in your journey. You worked at L'Oreal, you worked at LVMH, but what made you leave the corporate world and want to really set out on your own?
The idea that after 20 years in those big multinationals and the corporate world, as you say, you realize that there is a lot of politics around it also. I was at that time on a project of turning Chandon very global. And the problem is that it was 2009. If you remember, it was the crisis. the crisis. And my project was somehow slowed down and turned down because they realized that, oops, they should focus the efforts on helping the champagne brands rather than going for this project of mine. It would have been a great moment for Chandon, in fact. Had it not been part of Moet Hennessy, that would have been such a good window to be successful, because you had excellent quality at a lower price. So that would have been the right moment. Nevertheless, from a more strategic point of view for Moet Hennessy, it was the time to focus the sales force on champagne again, to try to limit the dropping of sales of the main brands. So when you see that, you feel, okay, well, okay, I understand. Okay, this is part of being in a large corporation. But then what if I could do things myself? And what if I had no big meetings during which I have to convince people that I am right? What if I can do things as I see them? And after 20 years in the corporate world, I really wanted to start something else, to start my project.
Yeah, and I remember you telling us that even in person when we met in Paris, that you had a lot of pushback around, like, the people around you were like, just kind of like questioning, like, why would you go and do that? Like, you're saying that you were going to make, especially, and obviously all entrepreneurs know, when you start the first couple of years, you have to get some revenue going, especially if you're selling a product or service. So can you just talk about, like, the early stages of starting Candora and kind of the struggles you had?
The first feedback that we had on our project, which was really building a brand specialized on customized fragrances. Well, the first feedback was polite, interested, and we had people saying, "Oh, that's an interesting idea." When we listened to you and the first word was fragrance, we thought this guy is crazy, because the business of fragrance is so busy, and you have people with so much money that it's going to be difficult to be there. But then when you're saying, oh, it's not fragrance, it's customized fragrance, it's going back to the origins of good smells. Because in the 19th century, that industry went a little bit too much into the brands and into the dream that you build around it, forgetting a little the smell. And in fact, going back to customized fragrance, it means that we're going to have a discussion. We're going to focus on what you like and what you want to smell. So this was really the beginning of the project and how we built the brand. Then, as you said, what you need to take into account is that it's going to be a few years where your revenue will just drop, especially if you've been an executive before. Well, I used to say, well, it was just going down 10%. And then people were saying, oh, it's just minus 10% versus your previous salary. Then I was saying, no, it's 10% of my previous salary. So, and this, you have to accept it for a few years, because I wish all the best of luck to Dyfrent, and I wish all the best of luck to some entrepreneur who would be listening and watching us. But sometimes it's not that quick. Sometimes you go into one direction, you realize that you have to change a few things, and you go into another direction. So it takes you a while. I liked to, at that time, to take the comparison of you're on a runway, you're in your plane, and you're there, you're the pilot. You're on the runway and you're going on. You're not going up, but you keep on going on. So you feel, okay, I will try that button here. Yes, let me push that button. Oh, we go a little bit faster, but we still do not go up. And then what should we try? Oh, should we try to go right there? Yes, maybe we'll go right. Then maybe we'll accelerate even more. So you do it, and no, it's not working. Oh, okay, so we'll go left. Now let's go left. And left, oh yes, we're going faster. Still not going up. And then after a few years, suddenly you realize that you had to push that button here, and then, whoops, yes, it's lifting and you're going up. And this is then so cool, so rewarding. And this is what's happening now with Candora. After those years, when you cannot just kill the project because it's going on, but still, it's not enough for you to make a decent living and to contemplate something in the future. But still, at that moment, you feel, I should carry on. I should try new things. And for us, for example, it was the opening of a shop that was one of the successful buttons. Because when you do not have a shop in the perfume business, it's difficult to know who you are, really, because your shop tells a lot about what that brand stands for. In which area of Paris is it? Is it in the very elegant, well, is it the equivalent of Upper East Side? Or are you in downtown? And then, of course, your brand is not at all the same if you open your first shop in Upper East Side or in the meatpacking district. And we chose somehow something in between, because this area of Paris, Le Marais, is quite elegant and nice. This is where you had your hotel, right next to the shop, in fact. It's nice, but it's not posh. It's not really a show off. It's different.
Well, I guess we showed up to the right place then, didn't we?
So I wanted to ask, is France an entrepreneur-friendly environment? And what were some of the early struggles that you had?
Yeah. Well, very often, in France, you probably realize that we like to complain. We like to say, our government is not doing enough. Our health system is not doing enough. Our education system is not doing enough. Nevertheless, when you take time and you compare, you realize that we're so lucky. And for example, during COVID, the help that entrepreneurs and companies at large had was just spectacular. You could borrow money at zero rate. We had helps of different kinds also. My shop is owned by the town hall because they have a policy of having not only the big brands, but they want to have some streets with little brands that you could find only in Paris. Because that's the problem with this world nowadays. You travel so easily that why would you go shopping in Paris if you find exactly the same shops as what you have in New York? So the town hall holds some of those spots, and they just rent it to people who do not have places elsewhere. And then they said for 2020, they said, okay, we'll just forget half of your rent. And you see these kind of things, it's really showing that they want to push, they want to help you. So what is a bit more difficult than in the US is to start the company. We have a lot of paperwork. We have a lot of administrative work, which is really more simple in the US. But once you've done that, it's not that complicated. It is also a problem when you're at really next level, when you're trying to gather money to become very big. Then we're quite limited by the amount of people who are very wealthy in France and who are ready to put money on your idea and your company. That's where the problem is. But so far, it's not yet my problem.
So what is your ultimate ideal for Candora?
I think that this project now has shown that yes, you can meet your customers, you can meet your clients. The question is now, how can we grow it bigger? So we now have a second private room which can host larger groups. And we have our first adventure abroad. We have a Japanese partner who has a cosmetic brand, and they've integrated Candora. Their name is Parisienne, so it's Parisienne by Candora Paris. And we are the fragrance brand of that cosmetic brand. Succeeding in Japan would be the next step, in fact, to show that this is not only something for people in France, for tourists getting into Paris, but it can work elsewhere. Unfortunately, because of those two COVID years, it was impossible for me to go to Japan to see how I can push and help. So I'm pushing and helping, but from Paris. And I think that's the next step, to really show how it can work in another environment, in another country. And Japan is very challenging, because Japan is a culture in which you do not put fragrance on yourself. In Asia, it's not in the habits of people. There is a long tradition of fragrance, but it's the incense, something that you burn, especially in temples, but not something that you put on yourself. Nevertheless, it's time to start. And we do not need 90% of the Japanese to be buying Candora. Just a few percent would be enough. And this is the right time, I think. And our partner is very clever for that, because this is the beginning of something, in fact. So starting it there, and then probably starting it in another country once we'll have figured out how we can roll on that project.
Gotcha. I love that. It reminds me a lot, like we were just having like some internal conversations about just scaling and basically going from like in person to B2B, and then like franchise, like opportunity vehicles that can just 10x your business. And I see you doing like exactly that, going from in person to B2B. And yeah, we do it too. It makes all the difference in the world.
And then, of course, the project of Candora for Dyfrent is a cool project. It should be very nice, in fact.
Yes. I want to talk about that now. Like, you helped us develop and execute an incredible experience. Like, we had a lot of fun. Emmanuel came to our hotel, and not only did we make the custom fragrance, but he taught us beforehand everything that goes into it, the why, which the knowledge about fragrance is limited, to say the least. So it was great. It was great to get that. I want to ask, Now, like, what is not common knowledge for fragrance that you think should be? And also, where did you get the spirit from for your presentations?
Well, I realized that through the years on my runway, piloting my plane, that we were not so much into fragrances, but we were a lot in entertainment, just like for Veuve Clicquot somehow. What we need to give is that passion for fragrances. The problem of this century, 20th century with fragrances is that it's now owned by very big corporations who have powerful and very efficient communication departments. So they control everything they say and they give you a nice story. Well, it's pleasant to hear, but there are so much more mysteries about the sense of smelling, so many things about the history of perfume making on this planet, so many incredible brands from the past, but seen as an historian, not seen as the communication department, because the communication department will just make everything shine. And you know, we do not always shine. There are some moments which are not so perfect in the life of an entrepreneur. And this is what makes the human part also. And this is what I am telling in the workshops. And this is what we are telling, in fact, because now, as you said, it's not only myself, it's some other people who are just hosting the workshops. And we are delivering that. We are delivering some of this passion for fragrances, but by understanding better what is happening, not only doing. And the thing on which I insist always is that I am not creating your fragrance. You are empowered. And that's the beauty of Candora, because the concept is that you make a blend of different fragrances which are already crafted and made for you. You just need to see what you like together. I'm just here to help you give birth to your baby. I'm not making the baby. So it's yours. And there I can give you a few advice. I can tell you, okay, why don't you try this? But definitely this is your creation.
No, we got that.
Yeah, nah, I would definitely say that was our experience. It was just like really cool. Even just like we had like a friend there as well, and he wasn't technically he didn't sign up for the experience, but he got to kind of see the whole thing, and even he walked away like, man, that was one of the coolest things that like I wasn't expecting to do in Paris, but was just kind of was almost once in a lifetime experiences to have. So I guess kudos to you for creating that experience. It was definitely left a large impact on us, and we got to walk away with our own bottles engraved with our names on it. So it's just all in all a very, very cool experience.
Mission accomplished then.
Exactly. I guess I want to ask another question just about fragrance knowledge, because like Jay said, the knowledge of fragrance is pretty limited, especially with men in the US. I feel like we all just know like there's Dior Sauvage, and there's just like the top brands that if you know the name, then you just know the name. But even just like knowing the difference between an eau de parfum and a parfum and an eau de toilette, just like all of those different types. What would you give, I guess, advice for people who do care about how they smell but don't have the knowledge of that type of categorizations and all of that type of stuff?
Well, this is what we cover really in our workshops. So we need 2 hours for that.
Right.
But if I could give an advice is really get driven by what you smell. And that's the most important. Take some time to buy a small amount of it, live with it for a few days, and get ready to be very animal. Don't think too much about it. The sense of smelling is something that we share with all the with many other animals, and it's an instinct. It's not something that you should intellectualize. It's more, okay, what does it remind me of? Where does it take me? And this is what I call the library of sense, the memories of smells that you have gathered in your life. And when you smell, it's doing this. It's taking you to the moment, to the place, with the people during which you had smelt that before. So it's to really feel what is happening in your memory, and what kind of emotions it's driving. Because if it's just smelling good, it's not interesting. What you need is again emotions driven by those smells, and something that will take you to a special moment, that will drive you to a different time, to a different atmosphere, and this is the power of smells. So again, the main thing is, okay, for a while, forget about the brand, smell it, live with it for a few hours, at least days, it's better, and then see what it drives in you.
Okay.
And come to Paris and take the workshop with me.
Facts. And pull up on Emmanuel in Paris. I guess a follow-up to that would be, what would your advice be to applying fragrance? I know that there's a lot of different strategies out there. What is your kind of routine when you apply your fragrances?
There are some crazy things that were invented by marketing departments there. It's just, you know, that idea that you can spray a cloud
in the air,
and walk into the cloud.
Right.
Wow. that was so clever, because then you need enough to make the cloud.
Right.
So you're spraying half of your bottle. No. I think that a fragrance for me is half for you and half for the people getting close to you. So the half for you, you smell it if it's not too far from your nose, in fact. So spraying a little bit around you, on your chest, on your the back of your head, is interesting, because then it's things that you would smell from time to time. And then people getting close to you, it's the same. Most of the time, you interact with people around the same size as yours. So when they come, their nose would be at the same size as yours, at the same place also. So when they come, they would smell that good smell. And I think it's more fashionable nowadays, thanks God, to smell good for this circle, not for the whole room. It used to be the case. And you still have a few people who are not aware that they should not smell good for the whole room. But then having this scent on you, there's also a little problem, which is that if you wear the same perfume every day, your brain sort of cancels it. Your brain says, I know this one. And let me focus on other smells. There might be some interesting ones, some dangerous ones. So you do not really smell your fragrance if you wear the same all the time. So change it from time to time is also my advice.
Great advice. And
that's good advice.
My question, what advice would you give for anyone else who's trying specifically to grow a fragrance brand?
To my competitors? You want me to give some advice to my competitors?
Yes.
I would say you have to be unique in a way. There are too many fragrances out there. So adding one, you really need a good reason for that.
Plain and simple. Gotta be different.
Yeah, exactly.
And what advice would you give anyone wanting to leave the corporate world for the entrepreneurial path?
Wow. It is a very important choice. So take the time to make it. It's going to be difficult, not for the same reasons. You have to like doing things yourself at the beginning, because the corporate world is when you're orchestrating many departments. You're saying, okay, I need to see the legal department, then I will see production, then I will see sales, then I will see marketing. When you're an entrepreneur, at the beginning, you are all those guys. So you need to like jumping from one topic to another one, because it's going to be your life for a while. But that's so fun, in fact. That makes your day unique, different, again. The second advice is to really think that this is what we were discussing, your revenue will go down for a while. So you should have either a different way of living, or you should have made savings, but be prepared to that, because it's important to be prepared to that for a few years to give a chance to your project to go live and to become big. Because best of luck for your project to become big in a couple of years, but mainly it's not the case. And even for people like Steve Jobs or big people like that, it took a while. So it's very difficult to be successful in a couple of years. So you have to be prepared for more than that. Even to have sometimes a plan B for getting revenues, and keeping on with your project.
It's facts. It's a marathon, not a race.
Exactly.
It's a marathon. Or at least not a sprint, not a race, you know what I'm saying? But that's absolutely amazing. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I think you said a lot of very valuable things and really good advice. I would now just like to ask a few kind of more personal questions, just kind of as our outro. And the first thing that I'd like to ask is, are there any pieces of art that you'd recommend that impacted you in a majorly positive way, whether it's a book, a movie, a painting?
Yeah, I'm a lot in paintings. I think that when you see some paintings, the good ones, the ones that are made for you, you have a lot of vibes, you have a lot of emotions again. And during my workshop, if you remember, or if we had time, I don't know, I don't show it all the time, but I show a painting by Claude Monet, which is named L'Api. And L'Api by Claude Monet is now at the Musée d'Orsay. And it's one of my favorite paintings of all times. I had a poster of that in my room as a student. And funny enough, when I was reading about the Guerlain family, you know, the Guerlain brand is one of the old traditional brands of fragrances in France. There were 4 generations of Guerlain perfumers. And I saw in a book a black and white picture of the office of Jacques Guerlain. Jacques Guerlain was the number 2 in the 4 generations. He made amazing perfumes. That black and white picture, I saw the wall behind him, and then I said, no way. And I recognized L'Api by Claude Monet standing on his wall. And for him, it was not a poster. It was the original. And I checked with the Musée d'Orsay, and yes, he was the previous owner of that painting. And I think that Impressionists, especially, are interesting because they like simple topics. You don't have to paint an incredible monument. You can just paint a magpie standing on a fence on a winter day, and that becomes amazing. That becomes fascinating to the term that you are staying in front of that and you're captivated. And I think that this is a lot being driven by emotions again. And that's something needed. Passion and emotions, again, were key words for entrepreneurs.
So one of the last questions I want to ask, and we ask all of our guests, is, what does different mean to you?
Well, I think you've pinpointed that. For me, it's so important in many ways. In fact, being different is the key to success in so many ways. It's the key to success in your life, in your love life, in your career, and in the products you're putting on the market, and so on. It's a way of life, and it's not everybody who is meant for that. You can live your life being with others. And for example, this is quite a traditional Japanese way of life. To be part of the group. I think it's much more interesting if you find another way. And you see, having lived 20 years in 3 big corporations, and then going on a completely different path, is something that gave me so much, in fact. When I see some of my friends, colleagues who stayed in the big corporations, they have very top level positions nowadays. They've made a lot of money, but the experience I've lived being on a different path is just without value. It's incredible. And again, you know, it's of the 2 roads, it chose the one less traveled by. So you have to choose something that is not like others, to have to have something in your life.
Totally agree. Totally agree. I actually have one more too before we get to just letting people know where they can find you. And this one's just a hypothetical, and you don't have to go into too much explanation around it. But the hypothetical is, when you die, you won't be able to, as far as your legacy goes, all of the past work that you've done in your life is all forgotten, and nobody will have any record of anything that you did, except for you get to leave behind 3 truths that you have come to understand in this life, and that these are the only things that you can share with the world when you go. So what would be your 3 truths that you would share?
Hey, that's interesting. I think the first is really about this question of moments. Live the moments, live the life to the fullest. It's what stays, in fact. My motivation every day is to have people who have a good time at the workshops, and they will remember it. So living moments, living life is one of the truths, I think. The other one would be the utmost gratification is in relationships, in people, meeting people, understanding what they do, what they like, is so rewarding. And yes, being alone on an island would be my worst punishment, in fact. You need interaction, and this is what makes things very interesting. And third truth is your own happiness comes from the happiness of the others. It's not something that you can own completely. It's because people with you are happy that you are going to be happy too.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. The last thing I'll say is, if you just let the people know where they can find you if they're interested in you or your work, or if they'd like to support you, where can they find you?
Well, you use your favorite search engine and you find Candora fragrance, and it should be getting you right to us. So far it's in Paris, but why not someday closer to your home?
Someday for sure. I mean, you have all the things in the recipe for success. So I definitely see that for you. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure, obviously, we're going to be continuing to be partners, and hopefully we can get our fragrance that we made together out to all the people, and one day they'll be able to buy our fragrance. But until then, thank you so much. If you guys are interested in checking them out, definitely go check them out at Candora Paris, Candora Paris. And yeah,
Look out for Opulence.
Facts. Keep a lookout for Opulence by Dyfrent. Thank you guys so much. This has been another episode of Navigating Now. I'm Des Cole. He's Jay Bartlett. Thank you guys so much for listening to Emmanuel Frossard's story. Peace.
Bye from Paris.